Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for joining us this afternoon, particularly those of you that are calling in for the first time and those that will be listening to the replay over the next 24 to 48 hours. We like to move quickly through this call, bottom line the information for you. We know you're busy people, you have other things to do. We have a standard format. We spend a few minutes talking about the reinstitution and revaluation of the Iraqi dinar, which we continue to believe is the base currency, for the reset of these other currencies. A few minutes talking about the program we put in place to assist you, and then we go to a brief Q&A. So let's go ahead and get started and talk a little bit about the situation as it exists in Iraq. First, by way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of the dinar and these other currencies. We're not advocating either the purchase or the sale of these currencies, but as rather substantial currency holders ourselves, we're sharing with you the information that we think is relevant. The most relevant piece of information from our perspective is the window for the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. We continue to believe, as we have been saying for months, that we believe January of 2020 is the most plausible date for the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. However, there is one caveat to that date that I'm going to discuss briefly here today. But with regard to Iraq, they are moving rather quickly. They are developing a much more international view, and they're consummating contracts with a number of countries. Internally, Iraq is now producing nearly 5 million barrels of oil a day, so they have a product to sell, and therefore they're going to have revenue necessary to pay international contracts for the rebuilding of their infrastructure. As a matter of fact, the government of Iraq has contacted a number of Western countries for specifically that purpose, to rebuild their electrical grid, their bridges, their roads, and their general infrastructure. But in addition to that, Iraq is also negotiating with a country like China for the sale of their oil, and with regard to a long-term project, which is the development of the Silk Road Initiative, having to do with rebuilding the old silk trading route from millennia ago. So there's a lot going on. Iraq has also stepped up substantially their education program with regard to the deletion of the zeros. Now, having said all of that, the issue now is the passage of the 2020 budget. And this is where the caveat with regard to January 2020 is involved. The 2020 budget is scheduled for presentation to the Parliament in early November. But herein lies the problem. If the budget is not going to be presented until November for 2020, knowing what we know about Iraq, that budget could be pushed all the way to December 31st before it's passed, or it could literally spill over into January of 2020. Now, we know from past situations in 2012 and 2014 that the government, as particularly the CBI, said that they want to see the coinage in lower denoms circulated among the citizenry for 3 months before they would reinstitute their currency. Well, it seems that the minting and release of the coinage may be linked to the passage of the 2020 budget. What does that mean? Let's assume they get the budget passed in late December. Technically, that would mean that with the release of the other lower denoms in the coinage, that we'd have to wait another 3 months before the reinstitution. Now, we also know, based on past performance, that they could decide that the 3-month moratorium on the reinstitution pursuant to the release of the coinage can be avoided, and they can simply go right ahead, pass the budget, utilizing the stepped-up value, and reinstitute the currency. Worst case scenario, it seems to me, would be that the reinstitution, if things do not go well, would be pushed until March. Now, that's not the end of the world, January to March, except for one thing, and we've said this on numerous occasions. Because the IRS and the Treasury Department have refused to respond to our request for written confirmation as to the taxation on the profit from the exchange, a reinstitution in late March would make it extremely difficult, if not possible, to get the information we need, because taxes for the first quarter would be due on April 15th. So if this thing gets pushed out of January, the last thing in the world we would want would be a reinstitution in March. If we're going to wait that late, we'd want the reinstitution in April. Once again, we do not know what's going to occur, even though that caveat does exist, and I want to put that out there for you because we try to give you all of the relevant information. I am still of the belief that these issues will be resolved and there will be a reinstitution of the dinar in January of 2020, so that they do not have the headache of having to recalibrate the budget, because the budget will get passed in January, and they're going to need a rate, a currency rate, in order to calculate the expenditures and revenues. And so January 2020, again, even with this caveat, seems to me to still remain the most plausible date for the reinstitution. Now, that gives individuals that have not as yet gotten their affairs in order or may not understand what that involves a little additional time to do so. Trusts Unlimited has put a turnkey program in place to assist you. It is a two-phased program. Phase 1 is pre-RV. Phase 2 is post-RV. Pre-RV involves the establishment of a package of pre-RV asset protection trusts with the assignment of your dinar and your other pre-valued currencies to that trust package on paper. Post-RV involves all of the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you after the revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies. So let's start with Phase 1, which is the establishment of your pre-RV package of asset protection trusts and the assignment of your currencies on paper to that trust package. There are a number of entities that one can establish to provide some level of asset protection. Some individuals have chosen to establish LLCs and sub-S corporations. Now, those structures are primarily business structures. They do provide some asset protection by primarily dividing business assets from personal assets, but there's a couple of problems. These currencies are not a business asset per se. They are a personal property asset. Furthermore, courts have ruled that LLCs and sub-S corporations owned in the majority by one person or a closely held group can be pierced for civil litigation. So these entities are not appropriate to provide the asset protection you need for your currencies. Some individuals have established a trust called a revocable trust. A revocable trust does provide minimal asset protection. Why? Because a revocable trust is designed to circumvent the cost and delay of probate and some of the litigation that can be derived from that. However, as a general proposition, revocable trusts cannot provide the privacy and asset protection you are going to need for these currencies. Some individuals have established an irrevocable trust, which does provide privacy and asset protection. However, the weakness with a single trust entity is that if any asset within that trust gets involved in civil litigation, and if for any reason a court would rule a loss in that civil proceeding, all of the assets would be technically forfeit to that civil proceeding because they're all owned by the same entity, that one single trust. For these reasons, that is why Trusts Unlimited has established a package of irrevocable trusts, and I'll be explaining to you in more detail why that's the only way that you can provide the bulletproof asset protection you are going to need and want after you've acquired this wealth. There are a number of very substantial reasons why you would need to establish a package of irrevocable trusts and why that package would need to be established prior to the revaluation of these currencies. First, by establishing this trust package, you will preserve your privacy and your anonymity. Why? Because assets held within our irrevocable trust package are sealed, meaning that the general public will have no knowledge of your net worth or your actual holdings. Second, by establishing this trust package, you will be able to successfully avoid personal IRS scrutiny. If you're holding these currencies in direct title when they revalue, the IRS computers will most likely spit out an audit. And with the potential magnitude of this revaluation relative to your prior year's earnings, you're more than likely looking at a full-blown 6-year audit. Such an audit would be time-consuming. It would be extremely frustrating because it would come along at precise time that you have just received the funds from this revaluation. And third, the cost of our trust package would be substantially less than the cost of a 6-year audit. On the other hand, if your trust package is in place and your currencies have been assigned to that trust package pre-RV, you have successfully transferred the taxable event of this revaluation from yourself personally to the trust. Now, that's important for two reasons. First, we know statistically that there's only a 10% chance of an audit if this revaluation were to occur within a sophisticated irrevocable trust package. But second, and most importantly, even if the IRS determines to audit your trust, they can't do a 6-year audit. Why? Because the only taxable event within the trust will be the revaluation itself. The third reason you'd want to establish this trust package is because included within this trust package is a specially designed gift subtrust. Now, this has been designed for individuals that wish to gift currencies to family and friends. Now, if you're gifting to individuals that you have no problem giving them the currency to exchange for themselves or giving them the lump sum after you have negotiated the exchange yourself, that can be accomplished outside of a trust with a standard gift letter. But if you are hesitant for any reason to give these individuals the post-RV lump sum, then you can gift to them through this special gift subtrust. By gifting to them through this gift subtrust, their post-RV dollars will be protected along with yours because they're housed in the gift package. In addition, the language of this gift subtrust allows you to gift up to a currency or currencies, meaning that you can gift these individuals the exact dollar amount that you had in mind, irrespective of the exchange rate. But because you're gifting through this gift subtrust, you will have complete control of the post-RV proceeds, meaning that you can manage, invest, and distribute the money to these individuals as you deem appropriate. The fourth reason you'd want to establish this trust package is because it's been structured in such a way as to allow your estate to bypass the cost and delay of probate and the federal estate tax. Excuse me. I'll give you two quick scenarios. Scenario number one, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs an estate of $25 million. Now that estate must go through probate, a process that ordinarily can take anywhere from 6 to 18 months. But probate is a public disclosure process, meaning that the general public will be aware of the size of your estate, who your heirs are, and how much they each stand to inherit. So if anyone feels they have a legitimate claim against you, your estate, or your heirs, they can simply file that claim with a probate court. And that could tie the estate up for years, and in some cases, even decades. And your heirs will have either limited access or no access at all to their respective inheritance until the probate process is completed. Then there's something called the federal estate tax, the tax that the federal government would assess in order for that estate to be transferred to heirs. Under current law, approximately $10 million of that $25 million estate would bypass any federal estate tax. But the balance could be taxed as much as 55%. Now, this scenario is not only unacceptable, it's completely avoidable. Scenario number 2, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, you assign those currencies on paper to our asset protection trust package. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs in the state of $25 million. But with one difference. This time, that $25 million estate is protected in our asset protection trust package. As a result, there will be no probate. There will be no public disclosure of your estate. Your heirs will have immediate access to their respective inheritance, and the federal estate tax will be zero, saving your heirs as much as 55% of their inheritance. The fifth reason you'd want to establish this trust package is for some very specific asset protection benefits. One pre-RV, one post-RV. Pre-RV, this trust package will allow you to circumvent something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. What does that mean? Under our system of civil procedure, you can only be sued for what you actually own in direct title or the value of property at the time you transfer it out of title to an entity like our trust package. So let's take the previous example from before. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000, assign those currencies to our trust package. They subsequently revalue for $25 million. You begin to live a lifestyle more reflective of your newfound wealth, and a couple of years down the road, someone sees that you're living rather comfortably and decides for whatever reason that they're going to sue you. Well, this prospective plaintiff has a couple of problems. First, he or she better have a very strong case and very deep pockets, because this trust is structured in such a way as to make it extremely expensive and extremely time-consuming to pursue civil litigation. But second, and most importantly, once any prospective plaintiff learns that pursuant to the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act, the only thing they could ever win by way of a civil award would be $5,000, the value of the currency at the time you transferred it to our trust package, and none of the post-RV value of $25 million, there will be no lawsuit. Post-RV, there's a benefit I like to refer to as limited liability stop-loss. This protects you from future bad acts after you have acquired this wealth. This protection is accomplished through an asset protection strategy referred to as segregation of assets. This is why we've established a package of trusts, and this is how it would work. Again, we'll use the same example. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. You transfer the currencies to our trust. They revalue for $25 million. Now that you have $25 million in trust, you decide to make some purchases. So you purchase a larger primary residence, a vacation home, perhaps a half a dozen rental properties for tax write-off and additional cash flow, a couple of cars, a boat, and let's say an RV. But as you purchase these items, You place each of them in their own separate subtrust to be managed by your master trust, the trust that held your assigned currencies prior to their revaluation. Now, why is this important and even critical from an asset protection standpoint? Well, let's say one day you're driving one of your new cars, you have an accident, the accident is clearly your fault, and tragically someone is seriously injured or even killed. Well, the family of the victim is going to want to sue you. But remember, civil suits are about monetary awards, and you don't legally own anything. So the plaintiffs would be left to sue the owner of the car that you were driving. Well, who owns that car? One of your subtrusts, of which you are merely the beneficiary. And what's in that subtrust? Merely that one car and the car insurance policy. In that scenario, the car insurance carrier will negotiate an out-of-court settlement with the victim's family. You will not be involved in those rather unpleasant negotiations. The car insurance carrier will repair or replace your car, making you whole. And this is the important aspect. All of your other assets are safely protected in other subtrusts. Why? Because under the law, those separate subtrusts are separate legal entities or persons, and the plaintiffs would have no legal standing to pursue a separate legal entity or person in this civil litigation. So your trust package works very much the way a barge would work, where all of the valuable cargo is stored in a series of small compartments. Why? In the event that any compartment is ever breached, the only potential loss would be the cargo in that one compartment. The cargo in the other compartments is safe and secure due to the firewalls, and the barge will never sink. Now, these benefits are lost to you if you do not establish your package of asset protection trusts with the assignment of those currencies on paper to that trust package prior to the revaluation of these currencies. Now, there is one other benefit, and it's this. If you are, in fact, the holder of one of our pre-RV asset protection trust packages, then you will be eligible to participate in Phase 2, all of the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you after the revaluation of these currencies. I'll just make mention of one here today. Trusts Unlimited will be sponsoring a post-RV seminar to be held in Disney World, Florida, approximately 30 days after the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. Present at that seminar will, of course, be the staff of Trusts Unlimited to assist you with the management and funding of your trust packages post-RV. In addition, many of our clients have expressed a desire to establish scholarship funds, foundational trusts, special needs trusts, charitable remainder trusts, and even the more complicated 501c3 nonprofit and offshore trusts. And the proper way to fund those entities is through the direct transfer of funds from your asset protection trust package to those newly formed entities. Our tax specialists will be there to assist you with tax issues. Our offshore specialists will show you that by establishing offshore title of certain assets, you can substantially reduce and in some cases eliminate future taxes on the reinvestments of the net proceeds from the revaluation itself. We will also have our independent fee-based wealth managers there as well. You're going to want to reposition assets after the revaluation of these currencies for a number of reasons. First, we know statistically that 95% of all windfalls, however large and from whatever source, are lost within 3 to 5 years due to inexperience, mismanagement, and fraud. We also know that under the new G20 bank bail-in provisions, the failure of banks in the future will no longer be made whole through the general taxing authority of the respective governments, but first and foremost by the confiscation of funds at the accounts at those banks. So you're going to want to get money out of the banks and at work in other markets. Lastly, we know that the general global shift from fiat-based to Basel III compliant commodity-backed currencies in and of itself is going to create extremely volatile financial markets, and you're going to want a substantial amount of your net worth invested in tangible assets. Now, our trust package is initially a package of 10 trusts consisting of one master trust that will hold your assigned currencies pre-RV. It will hold your financial accounts like bank accounts and investment accounts post-RV, and it will manage the other sub-trusts. One optional gift sub-trust, if you wish to gift currencies to family and friends and manage that money post-RV, which sub-trust can be converted to a standard sub-trust along with the 8 additional standard sub-trusts to hold financial assets like homes, cars, boats, etc. Now, this trust package was the simplification of a rather sophisticated trust package that we've utilized for our more affluent clients in the past, a package that had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But when we decided to work with Denarians a few years back, we knew that that price tag was going to be unaffordable for many. So by restructuring the package, we've been able to reduce the cost to $3,000. There are several ways you can pay for that. If you pay us up front, we'll discount the price further to $2,500, saving you an additional $500. And just to explain, that $2,500 is substantially less than you would pay for a 6-year IRS audit. And I can assure you that the information that you will receive at our post-RV seminar would cost you more than $2,500 in and of itself. Now, if that $2,500 is unaffordable, we even have a deferred payment arrangement. You'd make an initial payment of $525, which sum would basically offset our out-of-pocket cost just to produce and deliver your trust. The balance of the $3,000 would then be paid in $100 monthly installments. We will charge no interest. The only proviso is once the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar occurs, any unpaid balance would need to be paid within 30 days. With this approach, anyone that has currencies and understands the need for getting their trust in place and their affairs in order pre-RV should be in a position to afford to do so. One other suggestion, we do accept credit cards. Pay us up front with a credit card. Not only will you get the $500 discount, but the minimum payment on your credit card would be substantially less than the $100 a month you'd pay under our deferred payment arrangement. But we will work with you in whatever method works best for you. Our objective is to help you get your trust in place, your currencies assigned to that trust for all of the reasons that we've discussed here. One other issue with the trust, that fee is a one-time only fee for this 10-trust document. The only other cost of this trust, lifetime, would be the rather nominal paralegal fees that would be involved in making changes, funding sub-trusts, etc. For example, let's say that after the revaluation you came to us and say, well, we just purchased a $2.5 million home on the beach and we wish to create a sub-trust to protect that asset. The fee to set up a sub-trust to protect that asset would be somewhere between $100 and $150. Again, a very nominal fee. This is not a fee that goes to any of the principals of Trusts Unlimited. This is merely the fee to pay the paralegal to provide that document. So this trust package has been designed specifically to assist you lifetime at a very reasonable and affordable rate. Now we're going to go to the Q&A in just a moment, but before we do, and for the benefit of our newer callers, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about Trusts Unlimited and why you may want to seriously consider, at the very least, getting our initial package. Our trust package was authored by our attorney, Robert Bly. He's been a practicing attorney for over 40 years, specializing in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning. I myself hold degrees in political science, macroeconomics, and finance. I've worked in these areas for over 38 years, and I, along with my clients, were personally involved in the reinstatement of the Kuwaiti dinar in the early 90s. So between the two of us, Robert Bly and I have over 78 years' experience working precisely in this area. and I frankly know of no firm that can make that claim. Now, Bob and I have been working together for over a decade in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning, and it has been disheartening from time to time to see people walk away from sound estate planning and trust creation because of the mistaken belief that by doing so they have somehow lost control of their affairs and their assets. In point of fact, it's just the reverse. Under our system of civil procedure, it's when you hold assets in direct title that you can lose control of them. And invariably, it's at precisely those times in life that you need and want control. If you've lived for any length of time, you've either experienced in your own life or through friends and family things like unexpected divorce, permanent incapacitation, the onset of dementia, premature death and prolonged and complicated probate processes. Then there are substantial investment losses, business losses, and even bankruptcies. The number 2 loss of wealth today in the aggregate, courtesy of the information age, is identity theft. But the number 1 loss of personal wealth remains confiscation through civil litigation. Anything you own in direct title can be taken from you. So in point of fact, the only way that you can manage, protect, and control everything at all times and in all circumstances is through the establishment of a package of irrevocable trusts, and particularly if you have an asset like these currencies that you anticipate a substantial increase in value. And we at Trusts Unlimited will do everything we can to help you accomplish your personal and financial objectives, both pre- and post-RV, as we understand them. So again, I thank you for taking the time to listen to this call. We're going to the Q&A in just a moment. Before we do, for those of you, again, that are calling in for the first time, I suggest you have a pencil and paper handy so I can give you our contact information. You'll be able to record that. I strongly suggest you contact us and get our no-obligation initial package. It provides a lot of information about us, about the revaluation, about trusts in general. You can review the package. Contact us by phone or email if you have any questions. We'll be happy to assist you in any way, and there will be no consultation fee. Again, we're doing everything we can to help you make an informed decision prior to the revaluation of these currencies for all of the reasons we've stated here. I'm about to open the Q&A. 2 quick rules on the Q&A. First, we do not take service calls on the Q&A. That is reserved time for new callers that have questions about Trusts Unlimited. And second, for obvious reasons, your name and number must be on the screen to participate in the Q&A. So I'm opening up now. And while I'm waiting for any potential questions, I'd like to give you our contact information. You can go to our website, which is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc.com. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc@gmail.com. Our phone service is 307-274-4122. If you'd like to listen to a recent conference call playback, or if you'd be kind enough to refer us to someone that might be interested in our services, you can either go to YouTube and go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can go to IQD calls and go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can simply dial the same number that you dialed for this live call this afternoon, with the exception of the last digit. Rather than dialing 4, you'll dial 3, and then use the same access code, which is 739-394#. If you'd like to be included on our email list, you can go to our website, go to the bottom, enter your name and email address where indicated. You should be on our email list within 24 hours. Bear in mind that we only send emails out very periodically pre-RV, but post-RV emails will probably go out weekly. So you'd want that information. I'm looking to the Q&A, and I see today we don't seem to have any questions. That's fine. I certainly hope that that's because I've made this information clear, and that those of you that would be interested will contact us. Again, We have a no-obligation package. It has a lot of information and includes everything you should need if you wish to proceed and establish a trust. But again, you're under no obligation by receiving the package, and we will assist you in every way. Our next call is scheduled for next Wednesday, same time. Certainly, if anything of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we'll try to get an emergency email out and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we will be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to our call, and have a great week. Bye-bye.